No ranked matchups? No problem. Week 3 of college football was filled with controversy and upsets, and we are here to break it all down and recap the week that was. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. And as always, check out all the links in our description below. Make sure to like this video. Go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert. And of course, check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and also sign up for our expert picks, where for just $30, you'll receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks, including the postseason. And we'll touch more on it later, but as you can see, we had another solid week against the spread, and I can promise you, you do not want to miss out on these exclusive expert picks. Well, we said in week 2 that despite not having a ranked versus ranked matchup for the first time since October 14th, 2017, we would still see some upsets in this week 3 of college football. And that's exactly what we got. And they weren't all upsets against ranked opponents. Plenty against 2 teams that weren't even ranked. But the 3 teams that lost in the top 25 were number 21 Maryland falling to Temple, BYU defeating number 24 USC in Provo, and then a shocker, Arizona State defeating number 18 Michigan State on the road. And we'll have more on those games later. But we're going to break down everything that happened in week 3, filled with plenty of controversial endings, starting all the way back on Friday night when North Carolina traveled to Winston-Salem to take on Wake Forest. North Carolina, a shocking 2-0 start with Mack Brown, looked to go 3-0, got down 21-0 before battling all the way back and making it a game against the Demon Deacons. But ultimately, the Tar Heels fell 24-18 when on the final play of the game, the Tar Heels appeared to have stepped out of bounds with 1 second left. But the referee said the game was over, they moved on, ran straight off the field, and North Carolina did not get a chance for a last-second Hail Mary. Maybe that pass would have fallen complete, maybe it would have fallen incomplete. But I know Tar Heel fans, especially Tar Heel players, would have liked to have had that chance, would have liked to have that clarity of what could have possibly happened had they gotten one last play. But nonetheless, Wake Forest remains unbeaten with a 24-18 non-conference win over North Carolina. Also on Friday night, Kansas, as 21-point underdogs, went on the road and beat Boston College 48-24. They were favored to lose by 21. They won by 24. That was Kansas' first road win versus a Power 5 opponent since 2008. They had lost 48 straight games to Power 5 opponents on the road. And now they have snapped that streak, and you can already tell the Les Miles era is off to a fantastic start. Just last week, they lose to Coastal Carolina. Now they go on the road and beat a solid Boston College team. We'll jump into what happened on Saturday here in a second, but I want to address what we have up here on the board. As you can see, in week 3, we went 41-8. So a very solid week just straight up. That's 83.4% accuracy rate or winning percentage, however you want to describe that. And that brings our overall record to well over 100 wins. I believe we were about 89 last week. So now we have 130 wins, just 26 losses. That's 83.3%. And for those of you that have watched us for a while, you know that our benchmark is 76. So anything better than 76%, especially by season's end, is a very successful season. And right now we are on track to beat that record in 2019. So we certainly hope that's the case. Down here, you can see against the spread, we went a very good 6-3-1, had 1 push or 1 tie. We had Virginia favored by 7 over Florida State, and the Cavaliers defeated Florida State by 7. So 1 push, but 65% against the spread in week 3, which brings our overall record to 19-10-1, which is also 65% against the spread through 3 weeks, nearly a quarter of the college football season. And we've received lots of comments over the past few weeks, even a couple yesterday during the day, that these predictions, not just straight up, but also spread, suck, and that no one should waste their time or money watching the content or putting bets down on our spread picks or looking at our predictions. And I would just like to say that not only are our straight up picks better than many analysts out there, but our expert picks, our against the spread picks, are better than every single analyst, not just a few, but every single analyst at Saturday Down South, CBS Sports, and even the Bear, the guy on ESPN College Game Day, who has a losing record right now against the spread in 2019. Better than every single one of those, as well as countless YouTubers that we follow on YouTube. So if you don't believe in our expert picks, I'm sorry, because you yourself are wasting your time and money and missing out on great opportunities here to make yourself some money and some college football benefits as well. So that is our Week 3 little overview on how we did on our predictions. How did Saturday shape up? How did Saturday shape up with college football? Well, I'll say this. The day started off with a beautiful tribute from the Georgia Bulldogs, having a pink out to honor Arkansas State's head coach, his late wife, Wendy Anderson, who just recently died of breast cancer. The Bulldogs annihilated Arkansas State 55-0, but it was a very classy gesture by the fans in Athens and by the Bulldogs community to show their support for Blake Anderson and his family. So that's how college football kicked off, and I couldn't think of a better way for Saturday to kick off than that. Beautiful gesture by the Bulldogs, who took care of business, but once again showing that college football is way more than a game. We mentioned one of the biggest upsets of Saturday was Temple upsetting Maryland. Maryland's high-flying offense that going into Week 3 was averaging 71 points per game only was able to manage 17 points. And 4 of those came on safeties. One, a legit safety, and the other one that Temple was willing to give up to run out the rest of the clock. So Maryland's offense really only generated 13 points and fell to the Owls 20-17. And that's a game that we actually predicted correctly all the way back in the offseason. But Rod Carey, coming over from Northern Illinois, now taking over this Temple job, already doing a great job in translating the success that he had in the MAC to the American Athletics. So a huge upset for Temple to pull off the win over Maryland. And just like they did last year, Maryland starting 2-0 before falling badly to Temple in 2018. They do the same thing again in 2019. One of the bigger upsets that not many people talked about because it did not involve a ranked team was the Citadel. Are you kidding me? The Citadel goes on the road, defeats Georgia Tech 27-24 in overtime. The Citadel was 0-2 coming into this game, and those 2 games came against FCS opponents. But they came into Georgia Tech, practically beat them at their own game. While Georgia Tech is switching to a more of a pro-style offense, the Citadel still came in, ran a triple option, had 320 yards of rushing, and beat Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets, that was their first loss against an FCS opponent since 1983. So obviously that comes to show that Jeff Collins and the Yellow Jackets still have a long ways to go in terms of implementing his new style of play. We knew what to expect with Paul Johnson. That's why I said they practically beat him at their old game. But Paul Johnson is now gone. Jeff Collins wants to switch to a more pro-style offense, and it's clear to me that it's going to take a much longer time than I think people were anticipating for him to implement that. When you got to the mid-afternoon, Tua Tagovailoa annihilated South Carolina, although give the Gamecocks some respect, putting up 23 points and hanging in that game for about probably more than half the game. But Tua became the first Alabama player in history to throw for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Bama won 47-23, but also give credit to Ryan Helinski, who just in his second career start threw for 324 yards and 2 touchdowns against that strong Alabama defense. So the future is not bleak for South Carolina. Helinski has shown in the past 2 games, I know one of them was against Charleston Southern, but to see how he kept his composure and was able to get South Carolina down the red zone, sure they couldn't capitalize all the time, but to put up good numbers and get them moving the ball and to drop 23 points on Alabama obviously shows that Helinski has a bright future with the Gamecocks. Another ranked upset, BYU taking down number 24 USC 30-27 in overtime. That game an absolute thriller. USC trying to go win the game, of course, in overtime and through an interception. So BYU, a team that we didn't think was going to start off strong after 4 consecutive games against Power 5 opponents, is now already 2-1. The lone loss coming to Utah, last week beating Tennessee, this week beating USC. Can they beat Washington in Week 4? If so, a 3-1 start, even a 2-2 start is much better than I think many people projected, and Kalani Sitake obviously moving his team in the right direction and getting his name off the hot seat. Because I believe that he was on the hot seat coming into 2019, and a slow start would have certainly moved his name up the list. Another bigger upset, and we mentioned controversy, this was one of them. We mentioned what happened in Winston-Salem Friday night. Probably even bigger than that was what happened at Michigan State. And as many of you know, I'm a huge proponent of Herm Edwards. He's one of my favorite head coaches in all of college football right now. I loved his history, I love his passion, I love his style. He brought in Arizona State, a team with a true freshman quarterback in Jaden Daniels, to take on a very dominant defense in Mark D'Antonio in Michigan State. A team that allowed negative 79 rushing yards against Tulsa. It was allowing an average of negative 3 rushing yards coming into this game. And while this game was very defensive-minded, Arizona State won this game 10-7. The controversy came at the very end of the game, where Michigan State did convert on a field goal, made the field goal, and it looked like this game was going to overtime. But the play was reviewed for having 12 men on the field, which Michigan State did indeed have. They had to go redo the kick, and they ended up shanking it bad, way, way wide. Matt Coughlin, horrible kick, was not able to convert, and Arizona State scored the lone touchdown with 50 seconds left. Their defense held, and they came on the road. They're 3-0. They're on our team's trending up, and we'll talk about them here in a second. But obviously, a heartbreaking loss for Michigan State, and obviously for me, frustrating. I'm not a fan of either team, but frustrating to see plays like this get reviewed, get overturned. I don't believe any penalty, I don't care what it is, any penalty should get reviewed. If it's human error. If Michigan State was able to get 12 men on the field and the referee did not catch it, well, that is just human error and part of the game. I don't believe plays like that should have been allowed to be reviewed, but nonetheless, Arizona State capturing a very signature win, and it's time to start taking them seriously as a Pac-12 South contender. And then, of course, the two bigger games of the night. Of course, the biggest one where College Game Day went, Iowa traveling to Iowa State, the 19th ranked Hawkeyes, defeating their rival for the 5th straight year in heartbreaking fashion for the Cyclones. Iowa won 18-17, and this was a game that I truly believe that Iowa State should have won. They were not able to capitalize on all of the advantages that they have and all of the opportunities that they had. Of course, this game was delayed twice by huge weather delays spanning for about 3 hours. So the game that was originally supposed to start at 3 did not really end until about 9, Central Time, of course. Iowa State led 14-9 entering the fourth quarter, had their opportunity to take a bigger lead or to take the lead back. They were at the Iowa 34, had a couple miscues. Brock Purdy slips, overthrown balls. They lead to a turnover on down. They get the ball back, get a stop using their timeouts, and fail to remember Football 101 rules that on a punt return, you're telling your players to get away. Iowa State had a chance to field that punt. It ended up hitting Detrone Young. It was recovered by Iowa. Heartbreaking for the Cyclones, who for the first time ever was hosting College Game Day and were unable to capitalize on a major opportunity for them, not just to get back into the rankings, to remain undefeated, but to have that memory of having College Game Day there and capitalizing on a victory because they were unable to remember Football 101 and muff the punt. So a horrible, heartbreaking game for them. The player of the game in that matchup, not Nate Stanley, not Brock Purdy, not Mekhi Sargent, but Keith Duncan, the kicker for Iowa, who went 4 for 4 on field goals and scored 12 of the 18 points for the Hawkeyes. So obviously he's the player of the game. Pretty boring for the most part, but Iowa does escape with a victory in their 5th straight over Iowa State. And then, of course, the nightcap, Florida defeating Kentucky. They lose Felipe Franks for the year, but Kyle Trask came in and led the Gators to another heartbreaking defeat for the Wildcats, 29-21 for Florida, after losing last year and snapping their 31-game winning streak to the Wildcats. It was a heartbreaker for Kentucky. They led 21-10 entering the fourth quarter, had a chance to win it, down 22-21 with a game-winning field goal, missed that. Florida still scored again and gave Kentucky another chance to try to go tie the game, and of course their Hail Mary fell short. And many people may say, oh, it's because of Sawyer Smith, we didn't have Terry Wilson. You can't make excuses when you're leading by double digits entering the fourth quarter. Kentucky should have won that game. The Gators prevailed, though, were clearly the better team, and they also had 3 interceptions. We mentioned Todd Grantham and what he needed to do to win this game, and he did it. Brought the pressure, forced some turnovers, and that ended up being a huge difference maker in this game. But it will, of course, be interesting to see how Florida progresses through the rest of 2019 without Felipe Franks, who will be out for the season. So, that is your Saturday recap. Now that we are through 3 weeks, it is time for one of my favorite things to do in college football, our teams trending up and teams trending down. And when we start doing our weekly predictions, we will also now have our Heisman Watch, where we will break down who we believe should be going to New York for the Heisman. Well, that can change every week. Same with these teams. Now, what happens with these teams trending up and trending down is we try to take teams that aren't in the top 25. We try to take teams that aren't in the top 20 for teams trending up. There are a lot of teams trending up. We only take a select few. There are a lot of teams trending up that are in the top 15. We don't like to touch that much on them because those are obviously good teams. So we're going to start here, and as always, we're going to break them down, kind of share why we believe they're trending up. And there were a lot of teams that we were going to put on this board that lost in week 3, and we had to erase them off. But first off, we have Kansas State. All 3 of these teams trending up are 3-0 and have a signature win already in the 2019 season. Kansas State 3-0, doing a phenomenal job. Chris Klieman comes in. Many people, including myself, thought he was a great hire, but were just cautious to see how he was going to do in his first year, transferring from North Dakota State to Kansas State, transferring from the FCS to the FBS. Well, he's doing just fine. 3-0, last week, or just yesterday, went on the road and defeated Mississippi State, a solid SEC West opponent, 31-24 to give Kansas their first Power 5 non-conference road win since 2011. So Klieman has his team going in the right direction, already undefeated, and should get them to bowl eligibility in 2019. So impressive win for him. Arizona State, the same way. You heard what we said earlier. Herm Edwards doing a phenomenal job. People criticized his hire last year. I thought it was fantastic. He led Arizona State to a bowl game, now has them at 3-0 with a solid true freshman quarterback in Jaden Daniels, one of the better running backs in the Pac-12 in Eno Benjamin, and obviously a defense that can hold their own. Just went on the road and upset number 18 Michigan State. And once again, it's time to take them seriously as a contender in the South, the only competitor I believe to be Utah. And then finally, California, a team that's absolutely trending up in week 2, went on the road and upset Washington 20-19. And there's a very good chance this California team could be 5-0 by week 6 when they go on the road to take on Oregon. But once again, Justin Wilcox prides his team on defense, and that's how California is winning these games. They shut down Washington, they shut down North Texas last week. If they continue to thrive defensively and slowly just progress and improve offensively, this Cal team can be extremely dangerous for the remainder of this season. So all have signature wins, all are undefeated, all trending in the right direction. But trending in the opposite direction, we have our teams trending down, starting off with Syracuse, a team that started off their season ranked, a team that many consider to be Clemson's biggest threat this season. But after beating Liberty 24-0, they fell to Maryland 63-20, and just yesterday lost to Clemson 41-6 at the Carrier Dome. So maybe Tommy DeVito is not the real deal. Maybe Tommy DeVito is not the guy that I thought he was, is not the best quarterback behind Eric Dungey. He looked great in games last year when Dungey was out with an injury, but he has clearly not shown that in 2019. Maybe Syracuse isn't going to be able to live up to the hype. Maybe the hype got to them. But it has not been a good start for Dino Babers and the Orange. 1-2, and they're going to need a major bounce back for the rest of the season. We personally had them at 1-2. And back in our predictions, we had them losing to Maryland and Clemson. But after seeing the abysmal performances, is that a sign of things to come for the rest of 2019? Are the things happening down in Knoxville a sign of things to come for the rest of 2019? Tennessee is 1-2. Their only win coming 45-0 against Chattanooga yesterday. Nothing to pride yourself on, Volunteer fans, after losing to Georgia State in week 1 and then losing in double overtime to BYU in week 2. Things are trending in the wrong direction for Tennessee, a team that was supposed to bounce back in 2019, but now 3 of their next 4 games are against Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. So more likely all 3 of those going to be losses. And then they have a home game against Mississippi State in there that could also result in a loss if the Bulldogs get their crap together after the loss to Kansas State. So Tennessee and Jeremy Pruitt, 1 on the hot seat, 2 tanking in the SEC and tanking on our teams trending down. And then finally UCLA, a team that absolutely is trending down, 0-3. Chip Kelly, what happened, man? What happened to you? was one of the best college coaches in all of college football back during his time at Oregon, left for the NFL, comes back, and now he is 3-14 in his time, 3-12, 3-12 during his time with the Bruins. 0-3 start in 2019, lost to Cincinnati, lost to San Diego State, and just got annihilated by Oklahoma. The Chip Kelly experiment at UCLA has failed and will continue to fail, and there's a very good chance that he could be out by the end of this season. UCLA, one of the few, maybe if not the only Power 5 team sitting at 0-3 right now. They're trending down, and if we could, we'd keep them up on this board for a very, very long time. So there you have it. This is how we did all the way around in week 3. Another very solid week. Now that we can implement the teams trending up and trending down, these reviews and recaps are going to get a whole lot better and are going to spark a whole lot more conversation, and we're ready for it. So this is what we've got in week 3. Stay tuned for what we've got in week 4. More predictions, more analysis. You're not going to want to miss any of it. So once again, guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Go check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for the expert picks. I promise you don't want to miss out on that. And of course, please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.